Good morning, AHCP. This is Trainer David coming at you. Just wanted to kind of check in with you here, get things rolling, and hopefully we can make this a good week. All right, here we go. Just our quote for the week. Wisdom comes from not from age, but from education and learning. And that's one of the reasons that we're out here. So kind of what our plan here for today, we're going to kind of look at our little tip of the week, do some sales shout outs. Then we'll talk a little bit about finding your niche and see what, kind of works best for you. Give you some ideas, maybe a little bit of marketing in there, what can work for you. Just throw out some different ideas and see if you can find a little niche that really works for you. A little tip of the day here. For those that are looking at Medicare or in Medicare, kind of really looking at those who are just starting out. If you haven't wrapped up your AHCP, you've got just about a month to get that done in. That'll be good for this year. But if you haven't started, I would just wait until June 21st for the 2022 to start up. Because once you do the 2022 will be good for 2021. But for those who maybe were already started down that road, you need to get that wrapped up. You got about another 3 or 4 weeks to get it done. Excuse me. Few sales shout outs. Looks like as far as short term goes, the Nat Gen is where all the sales were going. I always call those the money makers. In the limited med, it's kind of a little bit of Nat Gen and some golden rule in there. Accidents, which kind of goes with that short-term medical, was the Nat Gen. And again, some golden rule. Critical illness, I don't know how golden rule itched out, but it did. And for dental, it looked like emeritus. So who were the money makers? We're looking at Max and Blake for doing the short term. Limited medical was Blake and Katia. And then as far accident, Katia pulls in front of Blake. I guess must have missed one of the sales in there somewhere. And then in Medicare, for those doing the Advantage plans, that was led off by Dai Lee. And for doing Medicare supplements, Tamela Southen kind of led the way there. I mean, both of them two doing some pretty good numbers there in Medicare. So let's look at finding your niche. Okay, I got kind of 6 steps here. Kind of use this as kind of a guide to see where you can make things fit in there and make things happen for you. You just kind of start off there with step 1 is kind of define your market. Okay, there are 2 basic markets that you can sell into. It would be the consumer market and the business market. Now these divisions are fairly obvious. I may give you some broad examples. If you were selling women's clothing from a retail store, your target market is consumers. And if you're selling office supplies, your target market is business. Okay. So that would be B2B sales. Well, in our case, we sell health insurance. So you could be marketing to both businesses as trying to get out there and do some group work and some small groups and individuals. And I would go one step further and say that our business is people that purchase their own insurance, whether you're doing, trying to, I guess if it's a group, you're dealing with the small business, but for the most part, we deal with individuals. And I'd say the actual target market is those who buy their own. Always try to be careful not to just, overstate it. Okay. So once you've kind of decided, what your market is, the next step is kind of, make a wish list. Kind of start off with, who do you want to do business with? Try to be specific, identify the graphic range that you want to be in, and the type of business or customers that you want your business to target. Now, if you don't know who you want to do business with, you can't make contact. You sort of have to recognize that you can't do business with everybody. So otherwise, you risk exhausting yourself and confusing your customers. These days, the trend is towards smaller niches. So, I mean, and even then, if we wanted to say, what our target is, I would say, like, if you said, I want to target families with teenagers, well, that's really not specific enough. If I said, I want to target inner city families with incomes of 40,000 and up, okay, so now we're kind of, narrowing things down. Aiming at small business is too broad, but aiming at, Chicago-based businesses that have 15 employees or more would be like a better goal for that. I try to stay out of the area of politics, but sometimes you got to be a little careful with that. As it turns out, if we looked at the red state, blue state stuff, you'd find that probably red states is where you would want to be targeting your business. The blue states tend to want to restrict short-term plans. Okay? I don't quite get that. I think they're really trying to push the ACA plans and are getting people into those, and they're trying to restrict your ability to usually no more than 90 days on those short-term plans. They want them to get back and get it from work or get into an ACA plan. So just I would say that if I was going to target a geographic area, I would really be looking at just pull up that map of red states, and that would tell you a good list of who has, where you can do a short term for up to 36 months. How about how many of you have ever been a real estate agent? I'm just tossing that out there. Okay? Because most of the agents are part of an agency, but the agency doesn't provide, health insurance. Okay? So better yet, instead of targeting the real estate agents, how about we target the owner of the agency and see if they'll let vendors come in and present at a sales meeting, something like that, right? I'm sure everybody has known someone who has, purchased a home, talk to your friends, your family, and just, take it from there, find out who their agent was, call up the agent. Hey, if you left them a message, that they will be calling you back. And then you would just take it from there and finding out, do they purchase their own health care? You're going to probably find that a lot of them are on the spouse's plan, but there'll still be some. And that's just an area that I know that people are going to be buying their own health care. Just throwing out ideas here for kind of how to market that. So let's focus. Let's focus on make a list of things that you do best and the skills implicit with each of them. Kind of list your achievements, identify the most important lessons you've learned in life, and then look for patterns that reveal your style or approach to solving these kinds of problems, resolving problems and issues. So you want to clarify what you want to sell, remembering you can't be all things to all people, and smaller is bigger. Your niche isn't the same field that you work. For example, a health insurance business is a business. It's not a niche, but it's more like a field. So you got to be more specific. Maybe I want to work with veterans. Okay? I might have an in there. Maybe you belong to the, VFW, you belong to the American Legion, or maybe you're an elk. I don't know. There's all those little social clubs out there. So that's one. I would always recommend referral groups. but your niche should arise naturally from your interest and experience. So let me give you an example. Let's say you spent 10 years, pick your number, working in school. You were a teacher, and so you worked in, primary education, but maybe you spent that part of that, you were the basketball coach or the football coach. So maybe you could specialize, insurance that specializes in youth sports teams. As we all know that many of the plans out there, are going to be really lacking in that area of higher deductibles. So even if they got that plan from work, how about an accident plan that would come in and help out should they be injured playing in that sports team? I mean, these are just areas that one could put their focus and start based on your own life experience, find that what might target for you. Okay, and then in step 4, you got to sort of synthesize. It kind of takes you from where you want to take you where you want to go. Kind of builds that long-term vision. Something somebody else wants. It's got to have customers. You got to sort of plan it out. So at this stage, your niche should start to take some shape as your ideas and the client's needs. They need to kind of coalesce together to create something. So a good niche, is going to have these 5 qualities, right? By the 5 qualities, I mean, it takes you where you want to go. Somebody wants it, right? So you got customers, you have it planned out. Ideally, you'd be the only game in town. Kind of a tough one there as far as in the insurance game, but I find that there's a lot of P&E agents, but not that many health agents. I mean, if I even broke that down, there'd be a lot of life agents out there, even though the agent is, or the license is life and health. How many are really in that health market? So it evolves and allows you to, develop different profit centers and still retain that core business. By that, they mean my core business is health insurance, but I can also help you with final expense or a cancer policy. And at some point, we just have to evaluate, right? We have to evaluate your proposed product or service against the 5 criteria we talked about there in step 4. So perhaps you'll find your niche, if you had in mind, requires more business travel than you're ready for. Doesn't mean that it doesn't fill those, but it won't take you where you want to go. So you got to kind of scrap that and move on. You just kind of brainstorm it out and kind of see what fits your skill set, what your prior experiences have been, and where it really fits in for you. Then you got to test it, okay? Give people the opportunity to buy your product. A lot of things that we can do in that area. Now, one is you don't want to be spending money on this. Most of us, especially if you're just starting out, don't have a budget that you can really allot to. If you're really trying to make a living and you're just starting out, having a budget for advertising and marketing is probably not a big one for you. So some of the things that we can do is offer like a little seminar, maybe put out a newsletter, something that shouldn't cost you money. I mean, if you're spending huge amounts of money on the initial market test, you're probably doing it wrong. Okay? So there, I mean, these are just the whole ideas to give you some ideas of how to get things out there. Use your past experience. I can tell you some of the niches that I found. The old saying was, if it's an inch wide, you want to go a mile deep. I knew a lady who had an in with a probation officer. And so one of the things that people getting out of prison, one, they had a QLE, right, for getting health insurance. And number 2 was they're being told by their probation officer that they need to do all of these things, right? So she had an in with the probation officer who was basically lining her up with clients. So I mean, there's just a lot of little ways out there and things that you have to kind of pursue and find on your own. All right. Hopefully, I've given you some ideas here and some places to look. You can always contact me here at training@ahpsales.com. Okay. And I'd be glad to help out and brainstorm with you. Anybody have any questions, just go ahead and shout me a message there on the email. And with that, hope you have a good week and happy selling.